solving problems involving joint variation. Ano nga ba ulit yung mga steps on solving joint variation? So, nagbago lang yung pangalan ng variation, joint at the same time yung type niya, pero yung steps on solving those problems will still be the same. So as we recall, the first step is for us to identify the quantities on the problem or present on the problem. Ang kagandahan dito kay joint variation, madali na siya. Nandun sa first sentence din yung kanyang mga quantities. The second is for us to verify this type of variation, then construct a mathematical statement. So, isa pang maganda dito sa joint variation, nasa first sentence pa lang, alam mo na agad na joint variation siya. And then third will be to form a mathematical statement, equation from that statement. So third, fourth, fifth, and sixth step will still be the same as on how you compute or to solve for the solve joint variation problems. Ganun lang din yung ginagawa natin dun sa lesson natin last Monday. So para mas maintindihan natin ulit kung paano to ginagamit yung mga steps na to, let's try to have an example. So medyo mahaba-haba lang kasi hindi lang dalawang quantities yung i-consider natin dito. It's joint variation, so we'll try to consider around 3 or more quantities. So in this case, the problem says the volume of a pyramid varies jointly as its height and the area of its base. So, kung titignan mo pa lang dyan, varies jointly, alam mo na agad na joint variation siya. So, a pyramid with a height of 12 feet and a base with an area of 23 feet squared and has a volume of 92 feet cubed, find the volume of the pyramid with a height of 17 feet and a base area or a base with an area of 27 feet squared. So kung ngayon pa lang, na-overwhelm ka na ang daming iba't ibang unit, we have feet squared, we have feet cubed. Once again, kapag nag-solve ka nito mamaya, hindi muna natin i-consider yung ating mga unit. So sa huli na natin i-consider. At ang importante lang dyan is kung ano yung hinahanap. Yun dun lang tayo sa unit niya magfo-focus, hindi na dun sa iba. Now, the first step on solving this one is for us to identify the quantities present on this problem. So once again, you can already identify this to the first sentence of the problem. So ano-ano dyan yung mga binigyan ng values? So binigyan ng values dyan yung volume ng pyramid. So we can represent that volume as V, and then the height of the pyramid, we can represent it as H, and the area of its base, which can we represent, which wherein we can represent this one into B. So ayan yung representation natin, V, H, N, B as in boy. So as we continue, step 2 is for us to verify what type of variation is this. So sabi ko nga kanina, obvious na agad na ito ay joint variation kasi nakalagay na nga, varies jointly. Yan. So joint variation siya. At the same time, as the volume of the pyramid increases, the base and the height also increases. So para lang din yan yung image, but in this case, ano na siya, pyramid yung lumalaki. So then we'll try to construct a mathematical statement from this one. So isa pang madaling idea dito is the first sentence is already your mathematical statement. So you don't need to construct a statement anymore. So ito na yon, yung unang-una nakalagay, naka-highlight na siya ng red. A volume of the pyramid varies jointly as its height and the area of its base. So kuhain lang natin yan. Yan yung magiging mathematical statement natin. And from that, we can interpret it as a mathematical equation. So in this case, how do we represent volume? Once again, we represent it as V, as in victory. Then, capital V ba yung ginamit natin? Yes, capital V. Then, varies jointly as its height. So, height, ni-represent natin yan as H. And then, area of its base, we represent this one as B. So, we can form this one. V, as in victory, is equal to K. Huwag mong kalimutan yung constant of variation. Then HB. Pwede rin yung BH. Commutative naman yung multiplication. Pero inuna ko yung H kasi inuna siyang binanggit dun sa statement. So that's how we construct the mathematical equation from the statement. So ito yung interpretation niya. So as we continue, we'll try to use that mathematical equation at the same time, the first set of given. So paano natin malalaman yung first set of given? Doon tayo titingin sa second sentence ng problem. So a pyramid has the height of 12. Yan. So in-highlight ko na yung first set of given. So height of 12 daw siya, then base area with 23 feet squared, and then the volume, capital V, will be 92. So kung titignan nyo, hindi ko na kinonsider yung unit kasi sa huli na natin yan pagtutuunan ng pansin. So dun ka lang muna sa mga values nila. And from that, we'll try to use that and substitute it on our mathematical equation. So nilagay lang natin siya dito for solving. So let's try to substitute V is equal to 92. So 92 is equal to K. Kopyahin mo lang muna yung K. Substitute natin yung given na H, which is 12. And then yung B natin, which is 23. So in this case, we can just multiply. Multiply muna natin tong 12 times 23 para mas ma-simplify natin. So this one will become 12 times 23 is 276. So this will just be 92 is equal to 276K. So, minultiply lang natin dyan. So, in this case, ang katabi ni K ay 276. So, to get the value of K, we divide both of them by 276. So, in this case, we can simplify this one. 1 na lang yan. And this one will become K is equal to. But kung titignan nyo dito sa left side ng ating equation, 92 over 276. Obviously, fraction yung magiging sagot natin. At the same time, kailangan pa natin kuhain yung lowest term niya kasi masyado malaki yung value for the value of K. So, once again, how do we do lowest term? Scratch tayo dito sa may color green na side. So, let's have it 92 over 276. So, ang ginagawa natin, we usually divide it to the highest number or the uh, greatest common factor for both of this. So, madalas yung numerator yung nagiging value niya kasi yung magiging greatest common factor natin. Hindi ganun sa lahat ng pagkakataon. Madalas lang for these kinds of examples. So, 276 is actually a multiple of 92 and 92 is also a factor of 276. So we can divide both of them to 92 just to get the lowest term. And we'll try to have the lowest term. 92 divided by 92 is 1. And then 276 divided by 92 is 3. So our lowest term is 1/3. Therefore, our K will be equal to 1/3. So ayan na yung magiging value ng K natin. Now the constant of variation K will be equal to 1/3. So in this case, gagamitin natin, yes pala, may possibility na ang value ni K ay fraction. So bakit ganyan, sir? Hindi ba pwedeng whole number na lang ibigay mo example? Kasi problem solving to. So, madalas kasi when it comes to joint variation, actually, possible din naman sa direct tsaka sa inverse na magkaroon ng fraction na mga values. Kasi nga, in reality, hindi naman palaging perfect yung makukuha nating values upon computing. There are also possibilities na fraction. Yung 1/3 na yan, maganda pa yung itsura niyan. Sa iba, talagang walang lowest term or lowest term na ibibigay, simplest form na, tas ang pangit na numerator and denominator. So, at least, may experience natin na yung mga possibilities na ganun. Para just in case, in real life, may lumabas nga na ganyan, alam natin yung gagawin. Now, as we continue, we'll try to form the equation of variation using this value of K, which is 1/3. So, once again, kuhain natin yung mathematical equation natin, tapos papalitan natin ngayon yung K natin ng 1/3. So, this will become V is equal to 1/3 HB. Yan. So, para mas magmukha siyang formula at mas madali siyang gamitin kapag nag-solve na tayo ng missing value, we can interpret this one or we can just simplify this and multiply HB to 1 as the numerator. So, 1 times HB is HB. So, ang gagawin natin, lalagay lang natin siya sa taas. So, it will become V is equal to HB over 3. So, kung sakaling hanapin natin, katulad yan, ang missing value natin ay volume, para multiply na lang natin yung height saka yung base value or area of its base divided by 3. So, masosolve na natin yung volume niya. So, mas madali gawin yung ganitong itsura. Now, as we continue, we have to solve for the missing quantity. So, in this case, the missing quantity is the volume. Now, we are given with the height, which is 17 feet, and the base area, which is 27 feet squared. So H is equal to 17 and the base area will be equal to 27. So from there, gagamitin natin siya, and this one, dito yan galing. Yan, so substitute lang natin, V is equal to, ang H natin ay 17, so 17 times B, which is equal to 27, divided by 3. So you can multiply that, 17 times 27, the answer will be 459. Then over 3. So simplifying this one, 459 divided by 3, you will get an answer that is equal to 153. Yan. So from there, ang kailangan mo na lang is the unit because this is problem solving. Ang hinahanap is volume and we got the volume 153 as the value. So ang unit ng volume, makikita mo siya dun pa lang sa first set of given. So here, volume of 92 feet cube. So ang unit ng volume natin ay cube. So the answer will be, the unit of our volume is feet cube. So the answer will be 153 feet cube. Yan. So that's the first example, 'di ba? Same type of or same steps lang yung ginagamit, nagkakaiba-iba lang nung magiging values kasi nga iba na yung type of variation natin. Sige, let's try to have another example. So the kinetic energy varies jointly as the mass and the square of the velocity. A mass of 8 grams and a velocity of 5 centimeters per second has a kinetic energy of 100 ergs. So ergs is the unit of kinetic energy. Then 5 centimeters per second is a unit of velocity. Grams is the unit for mass. Find the kinetic energy for a mass of 6 grams and a velocity of 9 centimeters per second. So, ganun pa rin yung type. Kasi kung makikita, ganun pa rin yung gagawin natin. As you can see here, varies jointly. So, this is once again a joint variation. So, first step is for us to identify the quantities present on the problem. So, ano yung mga quantities na yon? The kinetic energy. So, we'll try to represent it as variable E or small letter E. Then, the mass, yan, represent natin siya as m, and the velocity, represent natin siya as v squared. Bakit v squared? Kasi according to the problem or the statement from the problem, sabi dyan, is square of the velocity. So parang yung katulad lang nito yung kanina, the square of its radius. So ginawa natin siyang r squared. Dito naman, square of its velocity. So instead of v na lang yung gagamitin natin, gagawin natin siyang v squared kasi square nga siya. Now, i-erase natin siya sa 2. Now, from there, we can verify this one is joint variation kasi varies jointly na nga yung nandun sa first sentence, dun sa statement niya. Then, since this one is joint variation, we can construct the mathematical statement or rather use the first sentence as our mathematical statement. So, ganyan kaganda kapag joint variation, hindi ka na magko-construct. Andun na agad sa first sentence. So, kuhain na lang natin yan. Our statement will be kinetic energy varies jointly as the mass and the square of velocity. So, once again, kinetic energy, ginawa natin yung small letter E. And the mass, ang variable natin is just m. And the velocity or the square of velocity, we interpret it as v squared. So, from there, we can translate this one into a mathematical equation. So, joint variation siya. So, sana naalalan pa natin kung paano mag-translate. So, first, kinetic energy E is equal to, don't forget the constant of variation K, times M mass times the velocity squared. So, yan. Ang kaibahan dito, makakita na tayo ng square dun sa ating mathematical equation. Now, as we continue, we'll use this mathematical equation at the same time the first set of given to solve for the constant of variation K. So, i-highlight muna natin nasan dyan yung mga first set of given. So, yes, we have the mass. Yan, nandito. Mass is equal to 8. So, M is equal to 8. Then, sa second sentence lang yan, makikita yung first set of given. Velocity is 5. And then, the kinetic energy, we represent it as E as 100 ergs. So, yan yung mga values natin. And we'll try to use, once again, this mathematical equation to solve for the value of K. Substitute lang natin, E will be equal to 100 is equal to K times M. Ang value ni M ay 8. So, 8 yan. And then V is equal to 5. Substitute natin. So, 100 is equal to K times 8 times 5. We can simplify this one. 8 times 5 will just be equal to yan. Tama ba? Okay, so 8 times 5 will just be equal to 5 centimeters per second velocity. Oops, may kulang tayo. Kaya pala umihinto ako. Ang nakalagay is V squared. Yan, sabi ko parang may kulang. Ayun. Hindi natin nalagay C squared. So, dapat nandiyan C squared. Kasi dun sa formula natin or working equation natin, nandun si V squared. So, dapat pala siya ay 5 squared. Yan. So, simplify muna natin yan. 5 squared will just be the same as 5 times 5, which is equal to 25. So, let's just copy 8 muna. Then, 5 squared will just be equal to 25. Now, from there, we can just multiply 8 times 25. That will become 200. So, this one will become 100 is equal to 200K. So, galing dyan, we can simplify this one. 100 is equal to 200K. Divide both sides by 200. So, ano kaya yung lowest term ng 100 over 200? So, di ba madali lang yan. Kasi alam na agad kung saan divisible si 100 at si 200. 100 over 200, you can divide both of them by? Yes, pwede silang i-divide pares kay 100 to get the lowest term. So, from there, we can get the lowest term of 100 over 200 as 1 half. Alam ko yung iba dyan, hindi na kailangan ng ganyang pag-divide. Alam na nila, lowest term niyan is 1 half. So, yan. So, our K or the constant of variation will be equal to 1 half. So, galing dyan, gagamitin natin yung constant of variation natin or K to be substituted on this one, our mathematical equation. Then, papalitan lang natin yung K natin dito ng 1 half. So, in that case, our equation of variation will be E is equal to 1 half mv squared. So, papalitan natin to ngayon. Gagawin natin siyang, yan, di ba katulad ng ginawa natin kanina, ilagay lang natin sa numerator yung mv squared para mas madali siyang gawin as formula. So, E is equal to mv squared all over 2. Yan. So, yan yung gagamitin natin as our equation of variation. So, as we continue, we'll try to use once again this equation of variation to solve for the missing value. And our missing value here is the kinetic energy. We're given with the mass, which is 6 grams, and the velocity, which is 9 centimeters per second. So, sulat ko muna dito, mass is 6 grams, and then the velocity is 9 centimeters per second. So, substitute lang natin yan to solve for the E or the kinetic energy. So, M will be 6. Then, mass will be 6. Then, the velocity will be 9. But, don't forget na yung velocity na yan ay naka-square. So, i-square pa rin natin siya dun sa ating solution. Then, divided by 2. So, E is equal to, yan. Isin natin, baba natin ng onte. E is equal to 6 times, let's first simplify 9 squared, which is equal to 9 times 9. Yan. So, 9 times 9 is 81 all over 2. So, kanina hindi ko pinakita to kasi pwede nyo nga lang i-multiply 6 tsaka sa 81 then divided by 2. Pero, para hindi ka mahirapan, pwede mo tong i-simplify. Pwede ka na mag-divide dun pa lang sa factors nila. So, 6 and 2 can be divided. So, 6 divided by 2 can be equal to 3. Then, 2 will be equal to 1. So, dun pa lang, pwede mo na matanggal yung denominator na 2. So, from there, 3 times 81 will just be equal to 243. So, our kinetic energy is equal to 243. In that case, hanapin na lang natin kung anong unit ng ating kinetic energy. So, ang unit ng kinetic energy natin ay, ano kaya? Ano yung sinabi dun sa statement? Anong unit? Sige nga, kung nakikinig kayo, asan dyan yung unit ng kinetic energy or E? Pag may velocity daw ba, palaging may square? Depende. Kapag nilagay lang velocity, V lang yon. Pero kapag sinabi dun sa mismong problem, square of velocity, V squared talaga siya. Lalagyan mo ng square. Depende sa statement dun sa problem. Yan. Even radius, kapag sinabing radius lang, R lang yon. Pero pag sinabi dun sa statement, square of its radius, R squared yon. So, it's always depend on the statement. So, walang sumasagot. Walang nakikinig, ah.
Ergs, sir.
Yun,
Ergs.
very good. It's ergs. Yan, ang awkward sabihin, no? Hindi rin ako ganun ka-familiar sa unit na to eh. So, the kinetic energy will be equal to, our final answer will be equal to 243 ergs.